Thank you for coming. And I'm really I'm delighted to be sharing this material with you. And I wanted to remind people, as much as, of course, I hope for your appreciation and enjoyment of this work. It's especially helpful where you are confused or have questions, because that will help us when we refine the text as we're getting ready to print it. So if you find at any point that you're confused or anything, this is our usual rule with depth and practice anyway. We stop and we and check it out, but that will also allow me to make some notes about what might be part of the revising process. So does that make sense? It's super helpful because you're my audience. It's really written for you. So my hope is that it will serve you, and that if there are places that are not clear, they won't be clear to other people also who are trying to read it. So wait just a moment. I'm going to get a little piece of paper here so I can make some notes. And I think I don't know what your typical meeting process is, Kim. Now, do you read for a while and then have discussion, or people do some writing, or how have you set things up with depth and practice?
Well, we have been doing that, but that doesn't mean we need to do it here. We could just read, or we're open to opinions.
I kind of thought, well, one thing I thought that might be useful is if we read for an hour, people write for 15 minutes, any reflection or anything at all that they want to write about in that time. It might be some parallel experience or something like that. And then have a discussion for about 15 minutes.
Okay, that sounds great.
That seem good?
Yes.
One of the reasons, this is a very selfish thing to say, but if you feel, if you write something that you think might be included in the book at some point, please send it along to me. So we are gathering the voices of the Sangha to make sure that we have a really rich account that isn't just one person's voice. So as you'll see as we go along. So are you planning to screen share, Kim?
Yes, I'm all ready to do that. I have the PDF ready to.
Okay, so let's.
Is that the best way?
Yes, I think that is the best way.
Okay.
You don't have to have it up on their own screens, and they can read along. My sense is maybe a good way to do this would be in alphabetical order, reading in alphabetical order. At which, if you want to see it in a list, if you click on participants on the bottom, you'll see a list of the participants, and they're not strictly in alphabetical order because Kim and I are hosts, but otherwise they're in alphabetical order. So you can kind of see where you fall in the lineup, who's before you, who's after you, and so I can read or not read depending on what people wish, but we can begin.
Oh, and it is being recorded, and we're doing
Fathom?
No, we're doing. It will go onto YouTube because the images are so important in the book.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do SoundCloud. I'm just going to do YouTube.
Okay. So it looks like I would start then. Kim would follow, then Nelda, then Starlet, then Anne, Donna, Ellen, Genevieve, Melissa, Melen, Nelda, and Ramona. Is that the way it looks to you?
Okay.
No, it looks different.
I'm sorry, I thought we were alphabetical. Who am I after?
Yeah, we weren't doing. Are you going alphabetical by first name or last name?
Alphabetical by the screen name. So whatever you see on the screen.
Wouldn't I be before Kim and after Ellen?
First?
Yes. Well, the reason Kim and I are at the top of the list is because we're the hosts and co-host. So it puts our name at the top of the list.
Maybe Maybe there's a way to alphabetize the participant list that I'm not aware of.
I don't know.
It also puts whoever is
Speaking.
like it put
but
me
it
at the
mixes
top of
things
the
around.
list. Yeah, it
Yeah.
puts me at the top of the list and then Kim and then you.
For you,
So
for
that
your
doesn't
list.
help.
Yeah.
Right. But we know our names. I think we can.
Yeah, we can do it alphabetically, like I go after Genevieve.
Yeah.
So Anne is first. Let's do
Anne is,
that.
okay.
Just a
Sounds good.
question.
And then
So-
Donna.
And then I
Okay.
will be after Nelda and before Starlet, right? Or before Ramona. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Yes.
So for YouTube, is the visuals of our faces going to be there?
It's on the side. It'll be, I think, on the side, right? With the screen share.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will just change my name in here. I'll just.
Okay.
I go after Ramona, correct?
Yes. You go after Ramona.
And after Peg.
Ramona's after Peg.
Okay, sorry.
I'm used to going after Nelda.
I will say
I
a
have to-
bit about this, this cover. You can't see the whole page, I don't think. This is, this cover image is a white rockasoo that was sewn by Ann Johnson. She sewed a rockasoo a day for a year and out of paper. So some of them were out of maps and some, all kinds of things. This particular one is out of rice paper, and it also has a haiku because she was making these in response to the haikus of a particular poet. So so I thought this was such a beautiful image that we decided that we would use that way. So now I think you can make it a little bit bigger so the double page spread fills the screen. Where people will be able to read it that way. We have to work on the table of contents, which is now a little out of date. Okay, this is where we start. Wait, go back. Okay, yeah. Okay,
Peg, how do you pronounce Andy's last name?
Couturier.
Couturier. Okay. Preface. The generous piece of writing, the asymmetrical piece of writing, doesn't boss you or pull you. It creates many emptinesses, fills them in partly, inconclusively at times, and creates them again. Andy Couturier. Live at the edge of tears. Albert Camus. Whether the relationship is romantic, familial, or between a teacher and a student, deep trust nurtures deep love. Mark Uno, the Buddha of infinite light and life. I think we naturally need some way of life as a group and as Zen students in America, and as Hayakujo established our way of monastic life in China, I think we must establish an American way of Zen life. I am not saying this jokingly. I'm pretty serious. But I do not want to be too serious. If we become too serious, we will lose our way. If we are playing games, we will lose our way. Little by little, with patience and endurance, we must find the way for ourselves, find out how to live with ourselves and with each other. If we practice hard, concentrate on Zazen, and organize our lives so that we can sit well, we will find out what we are doing. But you have to be careful in the rules and way you establish. If it is too strict, you will fail. If it is too loose, the rules will not work. Our way should be strict enough to have authority, an authority everyone should obey. The rules should be possible to observe. This is how Zen tradition was built up, decided little by little, created by us in our practice. We cannot force anything, but once the rules have been decided, we should obey them completely until they are changed. You just do it without question. That way, your mind is free. The important thing is to obey your rules without discrimination. This way, you will know the pure Zen mind. To have our own way of life means to encourage people to have a more spiritual and adequate way of life as human beings. And I think one day you will have your own practice in America. Shinryu Suzuki, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. I believe it's Donna's turn.
I'm sorry, could you make the font bigger? Please?
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Sure.
What
For the
is,
mind in
can you get rid of the header up there that says open with? No?
for the mind in harmony with the Tao, all selfishness disappears. With not even a trace of self-doubt, you can trust the universe completely. All at once you are free, with nothing left to hold on to. All is empty, brilliant, perfect in its own being. In all the world of things as they are, there is no self, no non-self. If you want to describe its essence, the best you can say is not to. In this, not to, nothing is separate, and nothing in the world is excluded.
Is it my turn now?
Yes.
Okay. Introduction. This book is about the history, evolution, and principles of Appamada, a contemporary Zen center in Austin, Texas, with affiliated sanghas, communities of practice in England, Madison, Minnesota, and online. It is also intended as a guide and operating resource for our sangha and other sanghas. It can provide a foundation that orients and shapes the ongoing evolution of sangha, and now and into the future. Learn more at appamada.org. Our Zen practice at Appamada is what we refer to as relational Zen, and is based on the meaning of Appamada, the Buddha's last word, which properly translates as mindful energetic care. In other words, in accord with the history of Chan, Zen Buddhism, we believe we wake up and grow up together in meeting and relating, in genuine encounters, and in mutual care.
In these pages, we have included not only the narrative history of Appamada and its unique organizational architecture, but the reflections and contributions of Sangha members in accord with our understanding of the collaborative co-creation of Appamada's evolution and story. A note about the format. You'll find the main narrative text on the left-hand page for the most part, and Sangha reflections, photos, and other images, quotes, poetry, maps, and diagrams on the right-hand page. We believe the contributions of Sangha members and others illuminate and enrich this story immensely.
Perhaps you are a new Sangha member or a new Appamada board member and you would like to understand this center better.
Jen? Isn't it Genève next?
Oh,
I just read.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I didn't realize that was you.
or to have a sense of its background. Perhaps you are the leader of a small Zen group looking for ways to foster its development. Perhaps you are part of a larger Buddhist center and look for fresh ideas or resources. Or perhaps you are an editor or publisher of Buddhist content interested in an entirely new approach for organizing and developing Buddhist sanghas. Perhaps you are a longtime Appamada Sangha member who's interested in filling in some gaps in your knowledge about the Sangha. Or possibly you are interested more generally in organizations and their development and evolution and looking for unique and interesting models. If so, this book is intended for you.
Do I come after you, Kim?
Melissa, yeah.
Okay, good. The overreaching narrative on the left-hand page is authored by the senior teachers, Peg Syverson, is that right?
Syverson.
Thank you. And Flint Sparks, who have had the most experience with Appamada from the very beginning, and who are principal architects of its evolution and structure. We are also fortunate to have come together in a unique teaching partnership with complementary skills, capacities, and experience. However, the evolution of Appamada is impossible to imagine without the dedicated practice work, collaboration, ideas, and implementation of Sangha members who have helped Appamada thrive and grow, who have offered their time, effort, and financial support so generously. We have practiced deeply together, celebrated together, grieved together, played together, laughed together, inquired together, and studied together for nearly 15 years as Appamada, over 28 years since the first two tiny bands of earnest meditators began sitting at Live Oak Unitarian Church and in Flint's psychotherapy office. You will generally find their reflections as well as photos and other images on the right.
Here is where we bare our souls and share the journey, the way seeking mind, not of a solitary Zen practitioner, but a whole Sangha of contemporary householders practitioners, immersed in everyday lives of family, work, parents, children, neighbors, and friends, technology, traffic, and civic responsibilities. This is our great joy.
In telling this story, we hope to inspire other small spiritual groups and to provide a practical guide that can inform their own decision-making and development. It's not so much an instruction manual as a resource for envisioning, designing, and evolving a thriving, healthy, and resilient spiritual movement. Along the way, we will describe what we did at Appamada, but more importantly, how we decided what to do in fostering the creative collaboration that has brought people together to share their spiritual journeys and create a caring community of practice. We will also explore how the Buddha's teachings can be understood not only for the benefit of individuals, but for shared understanding and practice at the Sangha level and beyond. The Buddha saw that his enlightenment could serve not only the handful of disciples that first followed him, but the society that was rapidly transforming from warring kingdoms into a dynamic network of cities and villages. This required a transformation of consciousness. The Buddha provided teachings designed for kings, ministers, and officials, as well as traveling mendicants and monks. In this way, his teachings have transformed whole civilizations and nations.
I guess it would make sense now to go to here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. This is my part, I guess. Let's talk about this. Appamada's founding teachers. Peg Syverson, PhD. Peg has been studying and practicing Zen since 1966. He was a student of Joko Beck from 1990 until Joko's death in 2011. Joko originally authorized her to teach. From 2001 to 2006, he also trained with Flint Sparks at Austin Zen Center in the formal Japanese tradition of Suzuki Roshi, and was ordained as a Soto Zen priest there in 2004. He had formal priest training and residence for 6 months at Austin Zen Center and 6 months at Great Vow Zen Monastery in Clatskanie, Oregon, under the guidance of the abbots Jan Chosenbays and Hilgen Bays. In 2014, she received Dharma transmission with Kosho McCall in the Suzuki Roshi lineage. Peg is also an emeritus professor at the University of Texas at Austin in the Department of Rhetoric and Writing. He taught courses such as Zen rhetoric, nonviolent rhetoric, information architecture, and knowledge ecologies for undergraduates and graduate students. He was the director of the Computer Writing and Research Lab and then the Undergraduate Writing Center.
Flint Sparks, PhD. Flint Sparks is a Zen teacher and former psychologist dedicated to assisting people in the unending path of growing up and waking up. He is an experienced therapist and a master teacher who assists people in the skillful removal of blocks to love, both inside and outside. He is a clear and caring resource on the path of freedom from unnecessary suffering. Clint has nearly 4 decades of experience in the practice and teaching of psychotherapy. He also leads Zen retreats throughout North America and Europe. Flint currently lives on Molokai in Hawaii. Should I keep reading?
I think Starlet now.
Okay.
Although this book.
Okay.
Where do you want me to start? I think.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. Do you mind to make the font larger, please?
Oops.
Thank you. Although this book will focus on the evolution of a single small Sangha in Austin, Texas, our hope is that it will help other spiritual communities situate themselves within a larger aspiration for transforming our society and our responsibility for spreading the Buddha's Dharma of wisdom and compassion, ethics, connection, and care, so that it permeates the consciousness of every being in every place. If that seems like a vast undertaking, it is. But just as we Zen Buddhists take an individual vow to relieve suffering and liberate all beings, so our sanghas take an often unrecognized collective vow to relieve our collective suffering and liberate our societies from structural and systemic violence, cruelty, poverty, war, and more generally, our collective greed, hatred, and the darkness of ignorance and delusion. No individual can even comprehend the scale of such a vow. It must be collectively undertaken, but it is so sorely needed. Healthy sanghas provide exemplars and beacons of light and sanity in the vast, terrifying confusion. I think of Appamada not as a community but a movement, like a river. I gave a talk about this some time ago. Think civil rights movement rather than church community.
Okay, let's stop here for just a moment because I want to ask a question. Is this making sense so far?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is to me.
Okay.
Um,
Anna.
For me, some of the sentences seem long and so just harder to like I'd have to read them over and over again to a couple times, I think, to get them. And some of the paragraphs seem a little long to me also. That's what I'm noticing.
Thanks.
The material is, obviously I like the material. I'm just that would be what I'm noticing.
Thank you. Ellen?
yeah, I didn't quite understand that last sentence. I don't think it's up now. About this is, yeah, there you go. Think civil rights movement rather than church community. I didn't really understand that.
Okay. I'm just making a note. Later on, I talk a little bit about the distinction between those two things. Basically, I think of a community as something that is kind of static and has boundaries. And a movement is something that is in motion and there's a there like a river, but it doesn't have fixed boundaries and there's nothing that doesn't belong. So you can say that someone belongs to a community or doesn't belong to a community, but when you're talking about a movement, everything belongs.
Oh,
That makes-
I see. And then if we hadn't read the end of the paragraph and that explains it there. So I'm totally good with it now.
Okay.
Well, is that also why Appamada doesn't have membership?
Yes. Yeah. It becomes another comparison that people can make. Are you a member? Or I'm not sure I want to be a member. Just come and sit. So here's the explanation is in this next paragraph.
Okay. Because a river has banks, we call it a river. You can see it, and there is a there. But it is constantly in motion, constantly changing, not only with the seasons, but day by day, moment to moment. People move through the Sangha via its activities and practices, which shape the riverbanks they flow through. Look closer, the edges are fractal, not solid, yet they contain the river without constraining its motion.
Excuse me, I would like to make a comment.
Yes.
Kim, do you mind to go a little bit up? I think, just hear me out. Listen to this. Exemplars and beacons of light and sanity in the vast, terrifying confusion. because okay, sorry. Okay. But it is sorely needed. Healthy sanghas provide exemplars and beacons of light and sanity in the vast, terrifying confusion. I think of Appamada not as a community, but as a movement, like a river, because a river has banks. We call it a river. You can see it. And there is a there. But it is constantly in motion, constantly changing, not only with the seasons, but day by day, moment to moment. People move through the Sangha via its activities and practices. We shape the riverbanks. They flow through. Look closer. The edges are fractal, not solid, yet they contain the river without constraining its motion. I gave a talk about this some time ago. Thanks. No, there. Think civil rights movement rather than church community. You see how it flows better because you give the explanation first and then you really cement it with think civil rights movement rather than church community. That is a very powerful sentence. But if it, the understanding that takes you there needs to come first, I believe.
Let's see because it's going to go on with a little bit more explanation. So let's see see how it follows from there. I'm not sure who's reading next. You know?
I just like it the way it is.
Okay. Diversity of opinions. That's perfectly fine.
Donna, I think, is next, right?
Right.
Who? Me? Did Anne just read?
Yeah.
Oh. Are we the word community?
Our practice
Our practice.
I'm sorry?
at the top of the page, our practice.
Oh, depths. Oh, okay. Our practice is the work of freeing the river of obstructions and debris so that the water can run clear and fresh. All beings can be refreshed by it. Fish, otters, deer, dragonflies, turtles, frogs, foxes, rabbits, mice, and humans. It tumbles over rapids, flows around bends, opens out to places, to placid lakes and breathtaking vistas. We swim and play in its pristine waters with the delight of children. In its depths, the depths of the living Dharma, we find wonder and joy together.
Nelda?
Hey, this is a small thing and you're the writing teacher, but as with the delight of children, or it so when I read it the first time, we swim and play in this pristine water with the delight of children. It sounds like the delight of children is already in the water. And so I didn't know, I mean, we swim like delighted children. Is this what you're trying to, is this the intent of that?
Yes, but I wouldn't say it that way.
Okay, so just, that's what caught my eye.
Yeah, good. That's great.
Okay, should I read?
Yes.
Okay. Our practice is a work of freeing the river of obstruction.
We read that.
Oh, the world community. The world community, on the other hand, although I sometimes use it for Sangha, I'm going to start that over. The word community, on the other hand, although I sometimes use it for Sangha, carries the sense of something bounded, static, fixed in place, a thing. I think of settlers drawing wagons in a circle, settling down, building a town with a church, a school, a road, a courthouse. A community has members, and outsiders are, well, outside, even if it is changing and everything changes. There is a quality of rootedness and containment rather than movement and direction and flow. There's nothing wrong with this. We can see that some people belong to a particular community, CrossFit, a church, a book club, a fire station. Some people don't. But a movement, a river is not like this. There's no drop of water that doesn't belong to the river. Not a stone, a twig, a snake, a trout, a heron, a wading fisherman that doesn't fit in. The river flows on.
You know?
I just want to say this is really helpful to me because when I speak to people who have no experience of Zen, I can't say Sangha, they won't know what I mean. So I say Zen community, but I feel like I'm not saying what it is either. This is just helpful for me in terms of how to think and speak about it.
Thanks. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, I want to say I'm not sure how to use the hand gesture, so I'm just going to say I really like that paragraph, this last paragraph, a movement, a river, and not in that, a wading fisherman that doesn't fit in. I really like that.
Thanks.
It seems to be describing impermanence, doesn't it?
And inclusion.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yes.
The relationships and activities fostered in communities serve as the medium for learning how to be together, sharing this path with appreciation for differences and engaging wholeheartedly in practices and activities for both individual and shared development. Waking up and growing up together. Every teaching of the Buddha applies equally to individuals as well as groups, systems, and organizations. Furthermore, the most profound and subtle of the Buddha's teachings, such as Paticca Samuppada, dependent co-origination, are much more easily observed and comprehended in mutual activity and interactions at the group or collective level. So, the community of practice becomes the medium for discovery and expression of Buddhist teachings at a whole new level. Shall I finish?
Sure.
This book is part historical account, part guide, part introduction to helpful resources, part memoir. It is about the evolution of a wise and compassionate community supported by the scaffolding of the Buddha's teachings and the forms and practices of Zen. You can do this too.
We enter a discipline like Zen practice so that we can learn to live in a sane way. Zen is almost 1,000 years old and the kinks have been worked out of it. While it is not easy, it is not insane. It is down to earth and very practical. It is about our daily life. It is about working better in the office, raising our kids better, and having better relationships. Having a more sane and satisfying life must come out of a sane, balanced practice. Joko Beck, every day, Zen, love, and work. And Ellen raised her hand.
Well,
Yeah, I really like the paragraph at the top of this page here that ends in so the community of practice becomes a medium for discovery and expression of Buddhist teachings at a whole new level. That is what Appamada is to me, how it's a lived experience it's a lived experience of the teaching in this very direct, very tangible sort of you learn the teachings and then you live the teachings. It's sort of one big package, and so I really like that part.
Jeanette?
I don't know if it is an appropriate thing to say here, but right at the end of that paragraph, and maybe it's just because this is what I'm experiencing right now, but what's missing for me is some sort of expression of how this works through us individually and collectively, like at the cellular level and how it transforms us individually and collectively. It's not just a thing we do together and understand.
Right. Yeah, I think that'll be clearer as we go along.
Because if I were to pick this book up and wonder if I'm curious, that might really pique my interest.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe look. There's a comment. A student. Actually, it's my comment. on
And that's
on the
why
other side. So I wondered, Genevieve, if that or maybe other comments throughout might develop that.
question. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Before we do that, though, let's, Nelda, you had a question?
I do. And again, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask it. I came across a person who formerly attended Appamada, came across this person this weekend, and I asked him if he had attended Appamada, and his response was something that I hear often enough. And that is, yes, I went there because my life was hectic and I needed to calm my life, and it got calmed down, and so I stopped going. And so there are those, which is wonderful that we can offer that to people who want their life to be settled, but don't necessarily want to practice this as a lifelong spiritual practice. Is that addressed somewhere in the book?
Well, it's addressed in the fact that we're always dealing with householders who have all kinds of commitments, who have all kinds of, other things to attend to, who come and go. I mean, this is why it's a movement and not a community, right? People come and they go and they come and they go, and sometimes they'll come back 4 years later and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm back." There's nothing that we can say about that really, except that this is the kind of sangha we have. We don't have a monastery where people take a vow. We have this kind of very fluid environment. But people can, even if they only get a taste, if you get one taste of the Dharma, that's it. Lifetime after lifetime, you're going to be making progress on the path.
Thank you, Peg. Okay.
Yeah. Charlotte.
I want a clarification because it says Zen is almost 1,000 years old. So I assume that's because it is being referred to monk Dogen when he took it in the 12th century to Japan.
Bodhidharma.
Okay, well, Bodhidharma was from the 5th century, which means it would be way older than 1,000.
Yes, these are Joko's exact words, so that's why I put it in that way.
Oh, okay. It was just confusing to me because I'm like, that doesn't sound right. It's way older than that.
Zen is older than that, yes.
But I understand it is a quote.
Yeah, I have to quote it the way she said it.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Yeah. Okay, and someone else? There's one other.
Donna.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want this kind of feedback or not, but
is helpful.
In this paragraph, it says, you can do this too. For me, I mean, I think I know what you're trying to say there, but am I going to be a historical guide, introduction to helpful resources, a memoir? I don't know. You can, I don't know, it almost feels like you can be part of this too. I don't know if I'm doing, you can do this. Do you know what I mean? Am I?
This is probably going to be more to the point for someone who is trying to start a spiritual community or to guide a spiritual community, because it's about the evolution of a wise and compassionate community supported by the scaffolding of the Buddha's teachings and the forms and practices of Zen. So what I want to tell leaders of other communities is, you can do this too. And we're going to show you how we did it. You're going to do it in your own way, but these are the kinds of decisions that you'll run into. These are the kinds of questions that you're likely to run into.
So this is that clear at the beginning? Because I wasn't. So this whole book and everything is for someone to build.
It's for all of the people that I listed, you know, the longstanding members who might need some gaps filled in, although, you know, all of those people that I listed, that's who the book is for. And it's because they can do this too. They can join together in community, and they can, you know, they can what they need to learn to lead community. It's sort of an encouragement, basically. Like, don't imagine that it's beyond your capacity.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know who's next.
We enter a discipline like Zen practice so that we can learn
I read that.
You did. I'm sorry.
So we want to do the Ellen's quote.
Yeah, over here. I first walked. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
I first walked through the kitchen door at Appamada, excuse me, on a Sunday morning in the very early months of 2015. Peg and Todd were there, smiling, and made me feel quite welcome. Ted and I went to the side room for orientation. I asked Todd a lot of questions, mostly about how the Sangha functioned. I was pretty clear at that point that I wanted to practice Zen. Due to past negative experiences, the most important thing to me was finding a healthy, happy, functional Sangha. Todd thoughtfully answered all my questions. He described exactly what kind of Sangha I was wishing for, but even more than that, it was my impression of Todd himself that led me to become a part of the Appamada Sangha. He clearly had a mature practice. It showed in the way he moved, spoke, and interacted with me. I felt he was a reflection of a fully alive, fully functional Sangha. Following orientation, Todd and I sat zazen in the zendo with the rest of the Sangha. Sitting there, I felt I may have found my home.
Such a nice reflection. So that's the introduction. This part before the beginning talks about Flint's and my early life before we started really Zen practice, and then our teachers when we encountered our teachers Joko and Blanche.
Since it's 7:54, I wonder if this would be a good time to start writing.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea. We can start with this next time, right?
Yeah.
If I may, I just want to mention that I really love the imagery that you created with the river.
Oh, thank you.
It's very welcoming and relaxing, and it makes you feel like everything belongs there.
Thank you. That's great. You probably can stop screen sharing, Kim, and then we'll see more faces. So, yeah, it's just a little opportunity to reflect.
So is there a prompt or is there a particular topic or just?
Anything that comes to you is fine. Any reflection about what we've said, or your connection with it, or anything that you want to add, for example. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. I think we're at the end of our time, our writing time anyway. Anything you'd like to share?
I'd like to share, Peg, if that's all right.
No, no.
It's a hodgepodge of thoughts. But here it is. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have understood much of this. Intellectually, yes, but not in a fully embodied way. Not in the same way that keeps me nodding as each one of us reads, adding our voice to this continuing Sangha thread. And when I initially arrived at Appamada's gate 5.5 years ago, I had little idea about what the practice of Buddhism included. I was searching spiritually, not in need, out of curiosity, out of something to feed my heart and soul's yearning. I heard the teachings intellectually. I heard the teachings an intellectual necessity, but it's been the lived experience that has brought me to embody them. So many expanding, connected teachings lived out in practice in Appamada and other daily parts of our life. When Peg read parts of this guide during an intensive, I sat in rapt attention. I couldn't get enough. I listened because for the most part, I tend to be curious. And I often wonder how people, systems, communities come to be, fit together, how they impact each other, change as a result, or calcify as another possible result. I want to remind everyone how much Peg has been guiding us and so many before us. And thank you for it, Peg. And through this guide, will continue to do so. As an aside, I sometimes tell my friends that I manifested Appamada. I say that laughingly. I've always yearned for a place such as this. I know it's fanciful thinking. And the truth is, I couldn't have manifested Appamada. It's so much more than I ever envisioned in my hopes. Thank you.
Send that to me.
Oh, all right.
Wonderful. Really wonderful. What a great reflection. Donna?
I have some images.
You can share.
Okay, thank you. So what stuck with me was the river metaphor. I really liked that. So I tried to capture it with the individuals of and I couldn't remember if you included plants as well, but I know so humans and animals
Uh-huh.
floating down the river.
It's so peaceful.
So that's that one. I think there's a dinosaur in here, so I had to correct. I had to correct it to take the dinosaur out. And I said zoo animals, so then it made a mistake and got rid of the river and all the rafts. So I wanted to see them floating. That's not right either. Then I mentioned spirituality, so it was kind of funny. They put a I guess a spiritual teacher and all the people and the animals on the rafts. So that was kind of funny. And then this was my last one. I said, no, get rid of the spiritual teacher. So that's my understanding. I really liked that a lot.
Yeah. You have a lot of.
The river. I liked how you expressed the river.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you, Donna. That was beautiful.
That's wonderful. Charlotte?
So this is what I wrote. Again, I was inspired by the river.
Mm.
I hear the sound of water. It attracts me. I see the clamoring river, and I sit, closing my eyes, listening to its teaching. When I open my eyes, others are sitting, listening to the movement of water, forming a community without boundaries. The river moves past us. I look into the future course of its stream. I see the movement and the people at its banks getting up, transforming into a civil movement to make this world a better place.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Mm. You should all send me these. Now I see they're all going to be wonderful.
Where do you want us to send it?
Email them to me. There's actually a on the website for this book, there's a contact form, but you can just email it me. I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
I kind of took a direction with the community and move, and as opposed to a movement.
Uh-huh.
And I have not had, how do I say this? I have not had the very best of experiences with formal groups and teachings. So that kind of shadowed what I wrote. And again, I kind of ended in the middle, so hopefully there'll be something here. Let's see. Such description, such long lists, it all fits. I catch my breath at the parts about forming community. I do so much like the word movement instead. But from my background, doing or being involved in both things, I make myself breathe and breathe again. I remind myself that Zen is different, or is supposed to be. It has had thousands of years to smooth the path. Not that the path is smooth. By definition, one does not have to, nor can one master Zen, know everything about Buddha or any of the other teachings in one short lifetime. It is a beginning. The travels are long, the levels many. There's not an expectation of achieving enlightenment all in one fell swoop, although one could. I have found myself in the middle of so many conflicts in both religious, primarily Christian, groups. I read what the beliefs are and why things are done the way they're done, and I nod my head, I cross my heart, and I try to follow, teach, and live what I learned, only to find that I'm watching a community where I am the outsider. I ask too many questions, don't like the way decisions are made, jobs handed out. I see the words on the page and the intentional misinterpretation, or how they have been removed from their original context. I do not expect perfection from myself or anyone else, but I cannot live in hypocrisy, especially in a community that was supposed to welcome and love even those who are the other. Zen seems to have found a way to practice what it preaches, so to speak.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think people there are many people who have that same experience. I think that you have. Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. Where they feel that they have to suppress parts of themselves in order to fit in or to be accepted. Especially the questions and doubts, that's what I found. And
Yeah, I have another riff on the river
oh,
metaphor. The river is a title, a name for all that joins. There is no river without the snake, the angler, etc. Not only do all these things belong, they are the river. They constitute what is called river. There is a different river entirely if the crayfish or the damselfly is not there. And so it is fractal-like with the constituents. The overarching collection shapes and moves the seemingly disparate parts, and moved and shaped, the parts create, mold, evolve, transform the river.
it's wonderful. It's a poem. Send it. Send all those things to me. You have many pages yet to fill up. Yeah, Ramona.
I'm just going to read part of what I wrote. I keep mulling over the idea that it's a movement and not a community. My first reaction is to feel freed, unbound, like I can come and go. I can spread what I learn without obligation. I can leave if and when I want to. I only recognized a few of the faces in the group photo of Appamada, Peg, Flint, Lori, and so I saw that people come and go. It also makes me sad. I won't be claimed. I won't have a new family. The past hurts will not be redeemed. There is no redeemer. This is a false Christian idea. There are so many ways Zen Buddhism is unlike the Christianity I grew up with. It's liberating and scary at the same time. It's a comfort to know I can use Buddhism to have a fuller life, and I do need a fuller life. It's about whoever is present at any given moment. I can seek connection at Appamada.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Kim?
In reading the Satipatthana today with Starlit, I saw that some are aware of their thoughts. Some just move through life almost mindlessly, accidentally. What I enjoy about the book is that the creation of Appamada was not accidental. It was not based on solving problems, but rather on an evolving vision. I've wondered from the beginning of this project how this will appear to the uninitiated. The ideas aren't complicated, and yet because they are unique, I don't know how they will sit with people. They might think that what is being described is ordinary in the sense of nature, how something grows based on the available ecosystem. The growth appears organic and is in the best sense. It is not orchestrated like in a grocery store where different vendors pay to have the best shelf in the store. It is not an instruction book because the putting together is dependent on desperate entities being and becoming. It is kind of like mold growing in a culture.
That is such an interesting way to think about it, isn't it?
It's definitely an experiment.
Yes. Yes. But everything is, but people don't realize that everything is. I think this is I would say an overt experiment. Yeah.
Well, when there's a predefined end, then it's a little different than an experiment because it either fails or succeeds.
Why is that different from an experiment?
Well, an experiment is what will happen if, so not having a predefined end.
Some of them,
like a scale of success.
some of them do. The ones that have hypotheses have,
Yeah.
but this is much more like biological sciences, I think. Much more about well, the things I'm writing about in this particular chapter I'm writing now are taking the systems view and taking an evolutionary view and taking the architectural view. So three different perspectives that you need to understand what's happened at Appamada. So, so it's a little sort of a little bit of an overview of those three different, very different perspectives that should help people see a little bit of what is unique about Appamada.
Sorry, could you say those three things again? System, architectural, and
Evolutionary view.
thank you.
Yeah. So it's fun for me to write about these things because I did a lot of working with them in my dissertation and in my graduate research. So, and it was something I discovered is not common to people and not familiar to people often. So I figured a little introduction to perspectives would be helpful. Yeah. I can read you what I wrote.
Yes, please.
Okay. What I said is it's so helpful to hear the text read by others. It's almost like a new book to me this way. Hearing readers' perspectives, questions, and comments gives me a living sense of the readers I'm writing for. It is energizing and encourages me to go forward. My own sense of the worth of this work fluctuates up and down, from delight in finding ease in writing to the deep canyons of doubt. Still, it rolls on. Tonight we read about 11 pages. That means it would take about 25 weeks to catch up to where I am now, so I better get moving. Once they come close, I'll be having to write, edit, and lay out pages quickly. Or if they do catch up, maybe they can tackle another book in the interim. But there's nothing as invigorating as a live audience, and these are such thoughtful readers. I'm grateful for their generosity and attention to our project. It takes a long time to write anything substantial, a surprisingly long time, especially if you want to write from clarity. That's as far as I got.
Especially if you want to write from
Clarity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think we'll slow down. I think a lot of this was preamble, and we'll get deeper.
That's fine.
That's my guess.
Fine, if you catch up to me, you can, I have a couple of books in mind that could be interim books while I'm busy writing ahead of you. But I think it's actually going to work out because these next parts are quite descriptive. They're not quite as deeply philosophical as the earlier parts of the book are. They're more descriptive of what's there. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited now because we're probably about 2/3 of the way through the book at this point. So I can see how it's all forming and how it's all going to come together.
It's nice to know that there's room for more.
Oh yeah. Especially,
I thought it was all fill up with contributions.
no, not at all, not at all. No. There's always room for contributions. Yeah, because we're getting such wonderful reflections when we do get contributions. But believe me, we don't get as many contributions as you might imagine because people, I don't know, are shy about your writing or whatever. But it's really that kind of heartfelt, authentic expression that makes the book as rich as it is. It doesn't have to be some polished piece of formal writing. In fact, I hope it's not, because its job is really to say, this is how real people, living people have experienced what it is we think we're doing, right? And so it's all very well and good to say you're doing these wonderful things, but what's actually happening to people on the ground is the proof of it, the proof of the worth of what we're doing. So yeah, so it's the contributions are wonderful, and especially if they're not big formal polished pieces of writing. Yeah.
Well, I do want to say thank you for the beautiful way you've referred to us
Oh.
and for giving us the opportunity to read what you wrote.
Well, it's a blessing to me, so I'm very, very, very grateful, and I hope that you enjoy it as we go along. So the next part one is really kind of deep background, but I think it shows you the threads of how this actually got formed up pretty early in our awareness. Yeah. Okay, I think we're at the end of our time. I don't want to keep you any longer than we're supposed to be kept. But I'm so thrilled, and thank you so much for being willing to take this ride. It's so great to hear other people's voices reading it. It's so great. So thank you very much. Okay, see you next week.
Bye.
If not before. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.